Teen shot at for asking for directions while being black. Here's some good advice for black teens in the U.S. Try not to look too black around racist people. According to CBS, retired white Detroit firefighter Jeffrey Ziegler has been charged with assault with intent to murder after the moron actually tried to shoot a black teen who knocked on the man's suburban home to ask for directions. 14-year-old Brennan Walker of Rochester Hills woke up late for school last Thursday and missed the bus, so was forced to hoof it. He didn't have a phone, so no GPS. He ended up getting lost, so he did what any normal kid would do. He asked for directions. The Rochester Hills freshman tried a few houses until he got to the Zieglers, which he reportedly noticed had a neighborhood watch sticker. He knocked and a woman answered the door. The teen tried to explain he was a student and needed directions, but the white lady freaked and thought he was trying to rob the house, because robbers usually knock first. That's when her husband, 53-year-old Jeffrey Ziegler, got even more scared and petrified, so he went upstairs to get his shotgun. According to law enforcement, Ziegler was not terribly weapons competent and was slow to discharge his shotgun, which allowed Brennan to get away safely. Brennan's mom had given her son tips on how not to look too black around the whites, like not wearing hoodies or walking with your hands in your pockets. Security footage backed up Brennan's side of the story. Ziegler was arraigned last Friday. His bond was set at $50,000 US. Keeping it in the D.
Southwest Airlines flight grounded for flaming wing. A Southwest flight from D-Town to St. Louis was grounded after a passenger happened to notice the wing was on fire right before takeoff. David Fedor was enjoying the back of the plane on Flight 1863 last Thursday when his spider sense started tingling. He heard a loud thud, kind of like landing gear engaging, but when he looked out the window, he saw flames coming from the bottom of the wing. According to Fedor, the flight had about 80 people, but he had the rear mostly to himself. Apparently, no one else noticed the fire, so he got up from his seat and calmly alerted a flight attendant. At first, the flight attendant told him to sit down, but then she came back and saw the flames for herself. She alerted the pilots and they turned the plane back. The passengers got off and then either booked another flight or were given a refund. Southwest did acknowledge there was a fire and, in a statement, said, "While there were no indications of anything abnormal, our mechanics are repairing the aircraft and the plane currently remains in maintenance." Really? No indications of anything abnormal? Bird in cockpit forces Delta flight to turn around. A Hotlanta-bound Delta flight was forced to hang a U-ey after the crew found a bird flying around the cockpit. Before the flight, the pilot happened to see a sparrow board the plane, causing the flight to be delayed as crew and maintenance workers searched for the little feathered fellow. After a delay and an unsuccessful search attempt, the pilot decided to take off. Wouldn't you know it, shortly after the aircraft took off, the sparrow reappeared again in the cockpit, so the pilot decided to turn the plane back around. After getting back to Detroit Metro Airport, crews were finally able to grab the little guy and get him off the plane. In the end, after a considerable delay, the flight eventually made its way down to Atlanta. No word on what airline the sparrow ended up taking.
Spirit Airlines plane spews parts after Detroit takeoff. The FAA is looking into why a Spirit Airlines plane was spewing parts after a Detroit airport takeoff on Monday night. The Spirit flight from D-Town to Hotlanta was forced to return to Detroit Metro Airport after experiencing engine failure. The plane was able to land safely without incident, but unfortunately dumped a bunch of engine pieces into the yards of Detroit residents. The FAA sent investigators to look into what went wrong and to examine the recovered engine parts. The investigation should be concluded in the coming weeks. According to one passenger on the flight, the plane was at about 5,000 feet when there was a large bang that caused the aircraft to shake and shudder. The passenger said the right engine was on fire, sparking, and losing pieces. And here we thought it was just Spirit trying to save money by getting rid of plane engines.
Man walks 21 miles to work every day. Now he's rich. If James Robertson isn't the hardest working man in America, we'd love to hear your nomination. Not only has he not missed a day of work in 12 years, but for the past 10 years, Robertson's walked 21 miles 5 days a week on his way to and from work. Okay, once in a while he gets a ride from Blake Pollock, who shares the same route as Robertson. Otherwise, the 56-year-old man leaves his home at 8 a.m. and walks a couple miles to catch a northbound bus on Woodward Avenue to Troy's Somerset Collection, From there, he walks another 6 miles to work his 2 to 10 shift at Shane Mold and Engineering. Then after work, it's a 6-mile walk back to the collection center, where he catches the last bus of the day just before 1 a.m. He takes that as far as he can into Detroit and then walks the last 5 miles home. Whew! When Evan Leedy heard Robertson's story, he set up a GoFundMe account for the walker to raise enough money for a car. The initial goal was set at $5,000, but after just 2 days, there's more than $250,000 waiting for Robertson. And a local dealership has offered to give him a car. With that much cash on hand, Robertson could buy a new house, or 10 in Detroit. In fact, here's a sweet pad for sale right around the corner from his work.